Welcome to another awesome week of Lessons from Success. This week we've got the infamous Jock Fairweather. He's a serial entrepreneur and founder from here in Brisbane. Jock has honestly done it all. He's won numerous awards, he's run a business at 21 that was worth over 7 figures, and it doesn't even begin to stop there. After becoming an overseas success, he's decided to return to his small roots of Brisbane and start an incubator called Little Tokyo 2. Since starting, he's helped a huge number of businesses get afloat and remains a very iconic member of the Brisbane startup community. He's such an icon here, and I can't ever see him slowing down if I'm being completely honest. I love his raw style of interview, especially the one that we do today, and we've done it mainly on the startup world, including why so many fail and his views on the new generation of startups. Similar to Mark's interview, I won't be including any timings on this, as we literally cover so much that I do not want you to skip a thing. Don't forget to give us a follow on Instagram at lessonsfromsuccess_podcast and on our Facebook at Lessons from Success as well. Also jump on that website of ours, which is lessonsfromsuccess.com.au, and you'll be kept to date with all the latest and greatest. Until then, this is Jock Fairweather, and enjoy this incredible interview. So we have today the man, the myth, the legend, Jock Fairweather. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Dude, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Jock, would you like to tell us a little bit about how you got your start and what you're involved in now?
Yeah, sure. I think everyone's heard this a million times now, but basically when I was 17, I moved to London to start a luxury women's shoe label. It's what I wanted to do forever. So I've got like licorice-inspired shoe drawings from when I was 4, like
Wow.
high heels. Legit, I don't know why. It was just my thing.
Yeah.
I applied about 6 times to get into London College of Fashion when it used to be actually difficult to get in. Now, since they doubled the entry cost, it's basically if you've got the money, you can get in.
Bit like a Bond University. Of
Yeah, but it wasn't. Before, it was highly, highly selective. So I applied maybe 6 times or something anyway, and then I think finally they just gave up and said that I could go.
This guy's not going away till we
I'm
get him
not going
in.
away. So yeah, I went there, studied. The short story, I think no one's interested in this bit, is I basically got a factory to agree if I worked for them for 2 years for free, that they would make my first shoe collection. So to make your first luxury women's shoe collection, it will probably cost you in the realm of £250,000. And at that time, that was probably about 500 Australian.
Yeah.
So they did, and then I submitted at the end of London College of Fashion in sort of like the presentation. At the very end, after about 3-something years, this fully, professionally made by factory sample collection, 21 piece, different colours, whatever, finished on, I think it was 98.5%. It's best ever from London College of Fashion. Maybe someone's beaten it now, but from when I did it, it was the best ever.
Wow.
And then I just sort of started spamming shops all over the world to try and get in. I got into about 25 stores over like my first season. I met, just as we were just speaking then about Switzerland, I met a private equity guy from Geneva who bought into the company, and then I was a creative director for a few years, and then it became a disaster towards the end, but I'd got some money and so on, and then I came back to basically decide what I wanted to do, and that's sort of what brings us to how we got together, which is Little Tokyo 2. And the truth of the story is I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was just playing golf with my buddies like 4 times a week or something. And they're all talking to me about their dreams, or like so-called dreams, starting fashion labels, whatever. It was a bunch of different stuff. It was about 8 of them, let's say, were still my best friends. And they all said, they didn't know how to start, and they didn't know who to bounce their ideas off, and all this kind of stuff. From simple things like how do I get an ABN to complex things like, where should I get my manufacturing done, and who can help me manage that, and whatever. And so I basically said, I had this money from shoes. I said, I'll buy a house. You guys come and live there. There's 8 of them. You pay rent, like whatever it is that you pay, I don't know, was $500 a week or whatever they were paying for their rent. You pay that to me, live in the house, and then I'll be like your, I don't know what it was, mentor, helper, anything.
Yeah.
Because I'd got pretty far with the shoes, and they said, cool. So we started looking. I went into Little Tokyo, which was the oldest Japanese restaurant in Australia at the time. over in Spring Hill.
Yep.
When I'd walked in, a developer that I knew had walked out. He'd just pitched to the owner, Michiko, to develop that building into like a 35-unit block or something. And she was basically crying when we walked in, and I said, hey, what's the go? I mean, we were here for teppanyaki dinner, literally for dinner. And I basically said, oh, well, I'm looking for a house for me and my friends to live in. I've only got this amount of money, but I'll keep the name, the color, the furniture, the structure, all of this stuff. But this is all I can offer. And she said, sounds good. So I got it for about 800 grand.
Wow.
Less than the next bidder.
Wow.
Based on that sort of promise, which is why we have this name. That's why we're Little Tokyo 2 and all of our stuff's yellow and black. It's all from the restaurant.
Yeah. You kept your word on all of it.
Kept our word. And the original essence of why we began was, find people you love, get to know them, do everything you can to help them reach their dreams. I mean, that's what I was doing for my friends. And as we were sort of like refurbishing the building, they were inviting other people. So maybe there was 20-something people now that wanted to do this, be part of this house and follow their dreams. So we couldn't really live there, and we just made it into this sort of like members club style thing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where it all started. And since then, I suppose, as every one of my friends' companies grew, we as an organization our job was to help them succeed. We needed to stay like a step ahead. So, if they said it's coming up to time where we need to get funding, we needed to go out and figure out what's the best way to get funding in the structure and stuff so that we could guide them through the process.
Yeah.
So we've been going just over 4 years now. We operate 6 buildings. We've had well over 1,000 companies come through. So far, pretty close. I'm not a good numbers guy. I've got people in my team for that. But about 86% of everyone who's ever joined us as part of our community with a goal has reached their target, which is a really good stat. I mean, in theory, that's probably 8.6 times better than anyone globally. And of them, we've had a bunch of super successful crews. But our goal is basically to take a team or an individual that has an idea, like let's say they're in ideation stage, and we've got these 5 brackets, or we call them plans. And based on our experience, every 6 months, if you do what you're meant to do, and there's no black swan events or anything, you can progress through these brackets. So you start an ideation for 6 months, which generally we do through this Facebook group we've got called the Little Tokyo 2 Extended Network. It's free. There's just, sort of a culture code to abide by. And we help people with all this inspiration and things to get through the ideation stage. Then they move into what is our digital membership, which is basically a plan that helps people get a go-to-market strategy or a launch strategy together. Takes about 6 months. Then they move into our starting stage plan, which in essence is a $0 to $100,000 revenue or capital raise goal bracket, because they're generally similar. 6 months to progress, you go into the 100 to 500,000 revenue or capital raise bracket, which is our early stage. Progress growth stage, which is 500 to 1.5 million, and then our scale stage, which is 1.5 to 3 million.
Wow.
And so we have a program manager or like a success manager that looks after all of the teams in each of those brackets, and their success is their reward for helping people like jump into the next bracket. And then any of those teams that become part of our venture part of the business, Little Tokyo Ventures, where we do extra work or help them raise money like way beyond what we would generally deliver as support. When we take equity in those companies, the success managers along those brackets, if they were part of Lessons from Success, for example, would get a portion of that equity from the vehicle in which we get from Lessons of Success. So there's a lot of incubators and accelerators and things out there that exist. The majority of them particularly in Brisbane, Australia, took some sort of IP or licensed something from overseas and brought it here. Whereas we developed what we've developed in terms of our process, the frequency in which we provide help on an ongoing basis, the templates we've built, the advisors we've got, the process, everything that we've got, we built particularly and specifically for Brisbane or Australian-based companies that are looking to get from ideation to Series A, which is 3 million revenue or raise.
Yep.
From ideation all the way to that 3 million, we've had 102 companies do the full journey with us end to end.
My God, that's amazing.
But of course, there's been more because a lot of companies join us further down the track. So they might join us in the grow stage, and they're just trying to get help to get to what we call the scale stage.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the gist.
That is absolutely incredible. Do you have, I guess, one or two or a couple of massive success stories that you'd like to share, just to sort of put some people on the spotlight there?
Yeah, I think what's important to note first, for context, is that everyone starts businesses for different reasons.
Yeah.
And what you think is successful might not be what I think is successful, and might not be what the company thinks is successful.
And that's part of the reason I did the lessons from success, because
Sure.
I don't just want to interview people that have been successful in terms of finances or those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's what each person deems to be successful.
Yeah.
Whether that be, donating everything to charity, creating something for a good cause, and all those sorts of things. So
Yeah. Exactly. So as if I would say their names, but there's been certain people that say that we would have helped through the darkest times in their life because of how difficult the business journey is. And personally, as in terms of rewarding, that's the most sort of success that we have. But the AFR couldn't give a fuck about that story.
So
Could
true.
they couldn't give a fuck.
No, legit.
They're interested in unicorns or the next biggest whatever it is.
Yeah, someone that's just raised 100 mil.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I mean we have companies like that too. So there's some absolute favourites of mine for different reasons. Mm-hmm. 3 of the favourites, I probably can't do favouritism because I look after so many, but 3 that are really different. They're great standouts. They're good for different reasons. One would be a company called Euthermic. So literally the letter U, Thermic. The founders, I've known them for a long time now. They developed the world's first organic lotion. You rub it on your skin, and you can go out in the snow in a t-shirt and stay at body temperature.
You're kidding.
No, so fully organic. It's legit. I've actually tried it. And so they developed that. They sold out of the product a few seasons over. So it's called Cold Screen. And then they also invented Heat Screen, which is the opposite, clearly. But with any product-based company, it requires a lot of cash flow, a lot of capital to continue building the product. Yeah. And let's say your margin's 10%. It's probably going to take you 10 full runs to then be able to sustain yourself. 10 times 10 is 100. So those guys were really interesting. And why am I so proud of them? Well, one, they built a globally relevant company, which is our first tick box into LT2.
Yep.
So for us, globally relevant doesn't mean you have to scale overseas. That is an option. Mm. The other option, what we say is globally relevant, is if Euthermic was just based here and the biggest possible competitor came to Brisbane too, they could stand on their own 2 feet because they do something so well, to a global standard. Mm. I'm so proud of those guys because they built a world's first product, which is insane just to do generally. Yeah, it's like an invention that's pretty rare.
In this day and age, especially.
Yeah. And then they made a pivot, and I'm not a fan of the word pivot because I think mostly that kind of means giving up. But throughout their journey, they ended up finding all of these other insanely cool companies that do body temperature, heat and cold sort of regulation. And they saw what the future trends are. Like there's these major trends, for example, in office heating and cooling. So you would know if you've worked in an office, everyone complains about aircon. Some people are cold, some people are hot, whatever. And the future of office heating and cooling is nothing, just open airflow and you use products to manage your own heating, cooling, right? So like heating, cooling chairs, wristbands that alter your blood temperature, all these things.
That's amazing.
And it'll save trillions in energy costs. I think in the US it's going to save 16% of total energy costs, something like that in the future.
That'd be quite a big overhead for big offices as well.
It's massive, yeah. I mean, our energy bill is out of control. So the point is, what they did then is they go, cool, we can keep selling Euthermic, this, cold screen, but we need to make a marketplace for all these companies because it doesn't exist. And they're going through Amazon and getting smashed on the margins or, all of these things. So they made Euthermic into a global sort of body temperature control brand. It's a marketplace. They've got 25 odd companies on there that sell all of their heating and cooling temperature control products through there, and they're crushing it. They're amazing, and I love that.
That is incredible. I didn't even know that product existed. Yeah. I didn't even know that we were at that level yet. Yeah. So that's amazing to hear about.
Another one that I really love for social reasons, because we're really big on sort of social impact. Not everyone here is a charity or anything like that, but for example, we're a registered B Corp, so we really promote ethical and morally based business operations. There's a company called the Good Beer Co. It's Australia's first charity beer company. Oh, wow. They partner with meaningful charities like the Great Barrier Reef Conservation Society. They rebrand a local beer or get it sort of customized. And they're also almost like a marketing company where for every carton of beer you drink, it saves X amount of the barrier reef. So like, this is an example maybe, but for every carton you drink, you save a square meter of the barrier reef. Yeah. So you do social good while doing something that's a big Australian pastime, clearly. Yeah, and enjoyable. Drinking beer, and everyone cares about the barrier reef. He's got an RSPCA one, so maybe every carton you drink, it saves a puppy kind of thing. Yeah. Whatever it is. I mean, I'm not his marketer, but you catch the drift. Yeah, for sure. That's a wicked company. So there's some variances between, success, innovation, firsts, whatever, where Euthermic is a world's first kind. James from the Good Beer Co. has really amazing cash flow. And then we have groups like Citrus, who came in as basically a couple founders. They wanted to create a software platform where, in essence, it was Google AdWords for multi-brand e-commerce websites. So if you could imagine going on Woolies, you type in bread, just bread comes up. Mm-hmm. But Citrus is now involved with Woolies. You type in bread, and Coke can bid to come up on top of bread. Oh, interesting. So if you imagine in the retail store, when you walk into Woolies, you always see Coke first because they pay to be there. Mm-hmm. They've basically done that for multi-brand e-commerce sites, and those guys would be getting offers of buyouts around 100 million. They've been going for just under 2 years. Wow! So we've kind of got quite an array. Yeah. And we have a culture code that basically people abide by. So there's key points such as: are you globally relevant? Are you willing to give back to the community? Are you willing to use a broom, which means you could be me, the founder, you, or Google. You clean your own shit up. All of these kinds of things people have to align to. Yeah. And if they do, we're willing to work with them. That's awesome. And then we sit with them, create their growth plan, reverse engineer it, and there we are. That's awesome. I did have a close friend of mine that did do a lot of work in Little Tokyo too. His name's Matthew Baker, and he said that the culture here is unlike. He's an interesting character. He's a dude. I love that guy. Yeah. But yeah, he said the culture here is just unlike anything he's seen in all the other co-working spaces. It's just everyone. It's a very flat hierarchy here. Totally. Everyone's so friendly. Everyone's keen to just get involved, whatever it may be. Look at how I'm dressed. Yeah. Half the people here wouldn't even know I'm the founder. They just know me as the guy that sort of sorts out everything for them, all the BD, introductions, all that stuff. I'm just another guy that hangs out in the community. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, and you can tell that by your vibe as well. Very chill, very relaxed, but also on the flip side, definitely knows what he's talking about as well. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We spoke about pivoting a little bit just earlier there. You said that pivoting wasn't something that you're a huge fan of. Do you, with all the companies that come through, especially ones at the idea stage, do you usually try and influence them to remain strong on that first idea, or are you sort of happy for them to stray away, or what are your thoughts on that?
I suppose what I suggest is to not rush. I think if you were to really put in time to validate your idea, the solution it really provides for the pain point that really exists, who your actual customer you're speaking to is, all of these things which we promote that you should do, I'd suggest it should take you anywhere between 3 and 6 months to get done, you know? So in essence, we teach all of the frameworks as to how to go and do the validation, but you got to go and do it yourself. And if you've put in the time, then when you decide to launch, you should already have this core group of customers that believe in you, believe in the product, have helped give you feedback, all of these things. So why would you have to pivot? I mean, everyone's going to evolve over time. Like the product will evolve. You're going to be iterating it, improving it, but that's not pivoting. For me, pivoting is completely changing direction. And I think if you're pivoting, it means, well, you've either given up, which is possible. That's probably the majority of our 14% of people that haven't made it.
Yeah.
Or the second version, which is, I didn't do enough validation with what it is I'm producing, for whom I'm producing it for, and where I can sit in the market. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that talk about pivoting, I suppose, but probably most of them pivot for their whole life and never fucking get anywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
If you think about, anyone, whatever his name is, the guy that does Visi, the cardboard company, is the richest guy in Australia. I forgot his name. Who cares? That dude didn't pivot. That dude started selling cardboard, and then he turned up every fucking day for a really long time and sold more cardboard. He wasn't doing no pivoting. That's why the dude is worth billions, because he found something that worked and he ground it out for a really long time.
Yeah.
Guys I know and do BD work with and help fund our companies that are worth in the hundreds of millions, they know one thing, they turn up every day and they grind it out.
And they get it done.
Everyone in the generation probably above me and below me, we all think we can change the world and everything. We should be happy all the time and all this stuff. None of us are ever going to be worth hundreds of millions. Not that that's my goal.
No.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
unless you're willing to choose something and grind it out forever, you won't.
Yeah.
You could get lucky. Of course, some people do, but
If we're talking true dedication and hard work.
no one will be like that Visi guy. No one I know.
No.
Not from our generations, because we all want to change the world and try different shit, and
Yeah.
we're all distracted by so many things, and there's so many opportunities, you know?
It's so true. I mean, I definitely suffer from business ADD myself. I've done a fair few startups in my time that haven't come to fruition, and I think a large portion of that was definitely that validation stage that I skipped. And the fact that you're saying to spend 3 to 6 months on the validation stage alone, to me, it's a bit of a glass shattering moment, because it's something that, because it isn't showing direct tangible results, people do tend to skip over that, don't they? And it's not showing any direct tangible results, but you could waste, a year or two of your fucking life doing something that has absolutely no viability to anyone whatsoever.
I'll put it to you. This is the way that I like to best explain whether you've got a shot or not. There's a company called Liberty Financial. The CTO is here in LT2. He's my only mentor. Amazing dude. The most amazing dude. Glenn Foley. Liberty Financial is a second tier lender. So in essence, if you go to NAB to try and get a loan for something and you can't get it, you probably go to Liberty or someone similar. Liberty Financial is basically completely online. So really they're just like a technology platform. Whereas if you go to NAB or something like that, I mean, I don't know NAB in and out, but they pretty much got a dude that does tick boxes and goes, righto, Bryn didn't pay his loan back on this day, so okay, forget that guy, he's got a bad rating. Liberty Financial software will look at your history and go, oh, it'll look for itself and go, oh, that day Bryn didn't pay this back was the biggest hailstorm in Brisbane's history. Of course he wasn't going to pay it on that day, because who did? Everyone was panicking about the hailstorm, right? So it does stuff like that. They make 22 iterations to their software a day, improvements, based on who's using it, how they're using it, live. It's insanity what they do.
Wow.
And I mean, Google's probably 2,200, who cares? But this is one I know.
Yeah.
22 a day. So let's say you wanted to start a second tier lending company, and you had the same experience to exactly today at this minute that Liberty Financial did. If today you don't make 22 improvements, you're 22 steps behind Liberty. And tomorrow you're 44. And the next day you're 66. How the fuck are you going to compete with someone like Liberty Financial?
Look at that compound. I mean...
Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
So unless you can really choose something you can be the world's best at, then you're just going to be another hardworking person that probably never really makes it.
Bit of a generalized question, but I'll ask it anyway because I'd love to hear your response. How do you recommend people find something like that they are absolutely incredible at? And I know this is a question that is very hard to answer, but how can you find your own Liberty Financial? I mean, you were drawing women's shoes since four years old. It sounds like you've always known with that. How would you recommend the average person listening to this podcast right now? How would you recommend that they find their own Liberty Financial?
I probably got two variations. Variation one would be to start with something close, like be resourceful. So for example, if your father owned pubs, he'll have a problem in the pub that he can't solve, and you should attempt that. And because he owns many pubs, you can then sort of like scale it in essence, if you can solve that problem. So be resourceful. If you're not an astrophysicist, you never built a rocket, you don't know anyone from SpaceX, whatever, don't try and build rockets as your business. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. It's fine to have big dreams, but you should be realistic to an extent.
Yeah.
And build a platform to get there. So you don't start like that. You start being resourceful. And this is sort of like similar to that, but we know as our perfect customer, or the person we try to target, they're generally around the age of 35. They've been in an enterprise, so a bigger company, it could be Flight Centre, whatever, for about 10 years. They likely have kids. We know a whole bunch of things about them, but that in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. When they were working at Flight Centre and they found something that needed like vast improvement, and they pitched it to their boss, and their boss said, go away, or it's not a priority, or whatever. And they said, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go do it myself. And they build a team and follow that. So they found in an industry that they know intimately an insight of something that really needs improvement. And the best bit about that is because they know that industry intimately, they either know all the competition and so on they can sell it to, or because they know Flight Centre and they know Flight Centre will want it once it's built, they probably have their exit, their sort of trade sale, their liquidation factor sitting right there in front of them, which is Flight Centre. So I would suggest both of them include being resourceful, and both of them include finding an insight in something that's close to you.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I feel like, and I've spoken about this in a previous interview very quickly, but you feel, I guess, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of pressure to do it young, because you keep seeing, the Instagram bullshit, whatever it may be, about people that are just, I'm 25 and I've made fucking $100 million, whatever it is. And a lot of people try and skip over the real world experience, which is strange, because that's where you'll learn absolutely everything. Like, you can't pick up a textbook and learn how to run a fucking business. It just doesn't work like that. So that's definitely a really good point.
As the entry level for every market in the world is increased, so it's easier to start things, the harder it is to become one of those sort of unicorns. So when's the last sort of Facebook you heard of? When's the last Fruit Ninja you heard of? Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that showed it was possible, but they started early. It's just like my dad's trucking company. He started it 53 years ago, so if it's still going, he's going to be winning.
Yeah. It's
getting more and more difficult to be an overnight $100 million success.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people see, and that's what a lot of people want. But it's just, I mean, it's just not a realistic goal.
Yeah.
And as you said, yeah, you can get lucky, but
Yeah.
the majority of people, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I take nothing away from, the social media influencers like Ty Lopez and stuff. But if you are trying to be an entrepreneur and you're reading ebooks from Ty Lopez, you're not a fucking entrepreneur. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's so ironic that there's like entrepreneurship courses. What a joke. I mean, you're not an entrepreneur. You're a person who wants to start a business. And you're only going to be good at one thing. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you don't need that shit because you've already been buying Coke cans at school, buying Coke cans from Woolies and selling them at school for double the price. Like, you're that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Or girl, of course. So,
of course.
I think if you've got enough budget for social media, you can be a thought leader in anything you want.
100%.
Yeah. Which I really fucking hate.
Yeah, and there's people that teach you how to be a thought leader on Facebook and their opening things are, you don't even need to know anything. You don't need to be an expert on anything.
I hate that anyone can write a book and publish a book. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
I don't think you should. I think a book is a prestigious thing that should be written to be sort of a world's first, an original thinker style thing. And now every dickhead can write a book.
And it's annoying because it's taking away from those gems of books that have 40 years of industry experience, 40 years of experience, and they've given all their life lessons in 200, 300 pages. But unfortunately, other people have picked up a book from some idiot that knows fuck all, and they've read that and gone, well, books are shit, back to you.
I read two to three books a week, actually,
Yeah.
legitimately. And in the last 2 years, there's only one book I read that totally blew me away. There's others that I can see how and why they're sort of said to be legacy incredible books about management, like a book called Legacy in Fact. But there's only been one book that was like original, blew me away, where I wasn't scraping to learn things. Because in sort of business books and economics and philosophy and all these things, it's sort of like diminishing returns. So when you read your first book, you're blown away, and when you read your 100th one, you're looking for something, 10 things to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only one.
Would you mind sharing what that?
Yeah, it's
what the book
called
is?
Anti-Fragile.
Anti-Fragile.
Yeah, it's by a guy named Nicholas Nassim Taleb. He's like a economist that studied his whole life in risk and risk management. It's really interesting. The essence of the book is, if you are ever going to bet on a company, bet on stocks, bet on a person, you want to bet on a person that has been to the depths of despair in something and come back out of it stronger than ever. So something that's fragile, if you throw it against the wall, it breaks. Something that's, I don't know what the word is, but let's call it resilient. You throw it against the wall 20 times and then it'll break. Something that's anti-fragile, it might break the first time, but the next time it gets stronger. And then after 20 times you've thrown it at the wall, it'll never break.
Yeah.
So if you want to bet on people or businesses or whatever, that's what you'd bet on, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because no matter what happens, that company is going to come back stronger.
It's like a glass versus muscle sort of analogy. Break down glass, it's broken. You break down a muscle, it grows back stronger sort of thing.
Suppose so.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Talking about you, what would you, apart from obviously the shoes and everything like that, what would you deem to be your biggest success to date? Or what was the day where you've sat there and thought, like, this is my day, this is awesome, anything like that?
Never. I don't know. I'm not that kind of person, I don't think. I learnt from David Goggins, the book, I think it's You Can't Hurt Me, I think it is, something like that. You can see I'm not a detailed guy, but in essence, he has created this idea where you have a jar of all the things you've ever conquered in your life, where you've had a really struggling time, you've came out of it, and you create this jar, so that any time something that happens now that's really difficult, you can kind of go back to the jar, and it can instill the confidence that you can get through it. So it's difficult to say I'm proud of anything. I'm proud of having my daughter. I'm proud. One of the things I really love is building my team. It's a thing that I really love, hiring new talented people, helping them get better and better and follow, what they want to do as a career. I love that. I love the companies that we've helped from literally zero to wherever they've got, because they become lifelong friends. I love all of those things, but probably the answer to your question is I have a jar, but actually it's just a list on a wall. Same thing.
Yeah.
Of all the things I ever conquered, and any time I need inspiration or I think I can't make it or whatever, I look at the jar.
If it's too personal, feel free not to answer, but I always ask the question, what's your biggest failure to date, and then kind of riff off that in terms of how have you built yourself back from that failure. What would be some of the harder things that you've conquered, just because I feel like it really humanizes this process?
I think that the hardest thing for me, because I've always been a somewhat selfish person, or let's say I was born to a situation in which if I couldn't change the world, then I've wasted my life. I've been very blessed with, I don't know, genetics, the family I was born to, all these things. And so I would suggest the hardest thing for me is understanding and delivering on the fact that I have such responsibility, or I think I have such responsibility. For example, if I don't perform in my bit of the business, I can't pay my staff, of whom their livelihood depends on me. And if I turn up, I actually never have once, but in essence, let's say I turned up hungover or something, and we had our one-on-one today, which was, strategy day for 3 hours, and I was just there and not concentrating, didn't feel like it. I gave you shitty advice, and then everything goes to shit. That's a huge amount of responsibility, because people are handing over all of the most personal parts of their company, like their cash flow models, everything, and if I'm not 100% there and present and thinking about them and how to best approach whatever the problem is or the next quarter, and it fucks up, then I in turn have dramatically affected their life, their family, and their employees. And it's hard to come to terms with that kind of responsibility for the people, instead of before, like with the shoes, I just showed up for me. I was doing it for me. I want to be a famous shoe designer, whatever. So now everything I do has to be completely thoughtful or selfless, let's say. And historically, that's not been what I've been like. And now it's everything I have to be. And I find it hard. I find that stressful, because I have so much responsibility for other people.
How do you show up present and being able to give it your all every day? Because there's definitely days like today where I feel amazing, so blessed to be here, but there's definitely days where I'm not present and don't want to be here. So it's how do you, when you are feeling a little bit more down, how do you stretch back and give it your all?
No idea. I suppose my mindset is just that there's no choice. There's no other choice. Even if I'm in the shittest mood ever, I've got to go and do something to get in the flow, whether it's go for a walk before our meeting or have another coffee or play Rage Against the Machine on, my iPhone, whatever it is. I've got to figure out the way to be there and be in the zone. And if I just can't, for whatever reason, I'll call that person and say, hey, I'd really like to move you to another time, because, I'm just not feeling it. That's rare. Very rare that I've done that, but I have. Because I feel like the impact you can have in that hour, 3 hours, 15 minutes, whatever it might be, with that person is so vast.
No, I definitely agree. And that's, I can tell how rare that would be. But it does take that extra level of confidence to be able to do that rescheduling and call them and be like, look, I'm not on top of my game right now. I would love to do this at a later date and reschedule it. If we were to go back in time and speak to 18-year-old Jock, the infamous young, hungry sort of designer, what would you say to him, or what would you like to sort of let him know about what to do?
He was an asshole. He was.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. What I would say, well, I know there was a lot of lessons I needed about empathy and humility, for sure. That was clear. But I think the thing that I really wish that I'd done, one, was get some mentors or something like that and actually listened. So got these people who were willing to talk to me weekly, however often. fortnightly, which is what we promote here, and actually listen to what they say. The second thing would be about focus. In hindsight, the biggest mistake I made about my shoes was I made a 21, 22 piece collection that could make all kinds of ladies happy. Short ones, big ones, old ones, young ones, fancy ones, whatever ones. Which meant when a buyer turned up for their particular store, they just take, 2 styles of 22. So I'm like, well, what about the other 20? They're like, well, that's not the women that come into our store. So instead of what I wish I'd done, rather, just like, I don't know, maybe Converse or Doc Martens, I hate both of those shoes, but they've got this style that they made theirs, and they took this one style and showed all the variations of how you could wear them, and made that super successful with just the one style. I wish I'd done that.
So you wish you niched down more than just...
Yeah, if I went back, I would make flat, round toe ankle boots, and I would just cover them in all sorts of crazy shit. Pearls, and I do all sorts of styles, and that's all I would have ever done if I went back again.
Do you think if you went that route, you would have sold out? Or I should use the
word
exited?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the pitch I was given was the dream come true.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of money. We'll take all of the quality control, all the back office. They were making a conglomerate, so they had all of these back office staff, and then you just be this creative dude, go around to parties, whatever. That was literally like the job description.
Wow.
And so it was probably what every young designer ever dreamt of. You just do the design, and that's it. And at that stage, for 2 collections a year, that probably is 4 days of work. So for the rest of it, what are you doing? Well, I was going to PR parties, snowboarding, and doing bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun, but, I would have done it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you want to come back to little old Brisbane and start a life back here after having those lavish parties in Switzerland? And I've read a lot that you've met a fair few celebrities doing all those sorts of things. What made you want to return to the big country town?
Well, the end of the shoes was a disaster. It doesn't matter whose fault, but basically all of the back office staff started treating our factories differently to the way that I had. So expectations weren't met. And then, we started delivering late and delivering the wrong product to these stores and stuff. And then the stores were dropping from 25 all the way down. And then I was in a pretty bad spot. I think I was highly stressed, clearly, because I was about to lose my baby, my dream. Not like baby as in shoe company baby. I don't know, I was probably drinking a lot. I was definitely doing a lot of gym. All these things that are high stress.
Yeah.
High stress. And then I fucking totally broke down. I was absolutely cooked, like really cooked. And that was it. I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta go back to a place where I feel comfortable. I'm not 24/7 out of my comfort zone with people that sort of were my friends but aren't really. And my family went there and stuff. Yeah, so I just came back to try and decide what I was gonna do. And this whole thing just happened by accident. But like you said before, you know how maybe you and I don't know the term you use, but where we get entrepreneurial ADD and we want to try all this different stuff. What I've attempted to is build a company and a platform that sort of allows me to do that. You saw me walk in this morning before this podcast. I had an IM. So every day people are coming to me with businesses saying, here's what I want to achieve. How can you help me do it? And whatever. And so I just get to make this... I've just learnt this transferable experience, skill set, processes, templates, all this stuff. And I get to sort of implement them across all these businesses that I think are fucking cool. So I kind of get to have entrepreneurial ADD. Pretty much. Very
much to a lesser extent. This is a large reason I'm doing the podcast, because I get to see and hear all these different stories, and I guess it kind of fulfills that ADD need for me mentally, if that makes sense. Very much to a lesser degree, but similar sort of thing. Yeah. Do you, if you were to write a book and it was about the lessons that you've seen from successful entrepreneurs, what would be the top things that you'd put in that book? So what do you see as sort of a recurring theme among these people that crush it, not necessarily financially, just in anything that they set their dreams to be?
It's super hard to say. I've written in closed Facebook group and stuff, a lot of commonalities that I've seen. And I try to find weird ones, like how they would answer certain philosophical questions, because I think that can give you insight to, how they really would act under pressure and things like that. I think the people that do the best are the ones that have a really clear business model set out. And I'm not a great example of that, whereas because we're trying to improve so often, we're trying to figure out what's the best route. Is it to have salespeople, or is it have the program managers who get known for their bracket, and then people are just attracted to them because of success? So instead of doing so much outbound, you make it inbound and so on. So if you told me to take Little Tokyo to Sydney, well, I would say too hard, because, well, one, I don't have a network like I do here in Queensland. Two, where do I find all of these people? Three, like the people who respect me and whatever here. Three, I'm not even sure I know I've got a really good idea of how you need to run this process in this incubator. Clearly, we've been doing it, but I don't know the best way to scale that yet. Still figuring it out. And I think the people who really nail it are the ones that figure that out first. Like, if I was going to scale this, here's what I would need and here's what I've got to do. And I see that of most people that are able to figure that out, they're older. They're older because they know they can't be fucked working 100-hour weeks. So they want to figure out before that, do the validation and figure out what kind of staffing or resources they'd need to actually scale this out, and then go to talk to people and see if it's possible. Because then you're not trying to figure it out as much on the fly, let's say.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And you can see from someone that's had more experience, not just the fact that they don't want to work the 100-hour weeks, but just someone that has more experience would be, I guess, they'd have an understanding that it's better to do the work beforehand than it does after. Something I see with our generation is that instant validation that's required. And that with that instant validation does come things like skipping those before periods like we spoke about earlier.
You've got to be so critical about all of it. So if you had an idea, you threw it up on your Facebook, most of the people on your Facebook are probably around your age and probably your friends. So they're probably saying it's a good idea because of those two reasons, rather than the fact that either they know it's a good idea or two, they would use it. They're just saying it to make you feel good. Yeah. Because they probably want the same thing in return, like likes and comments and all this bullshit that's not real. Because when you actually go and ask people for money is the truth about the product. Yeah. Yeah, so
I've noticed that. I mean, even in businesses I've started prior, it's, oh yeah, man, I get on board on that as soon as it came out. And then when it actually comes push to shove and people want to put money up, it's it's not even the same story, is it?
Of course, totally different story.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't even asking for much. We're talking like double-digit figures here. We're not asking for much at all. And still they're like, oh, like, nah. So
yeah, very common.
Yeah, definitely. Well, is there any other big lessons that you'd like to... You've seen so many companies come through. You've seen so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to people that you think could help them, could fast track any of the stages?
I think that there's so many lessons, clearly.
It's so hard when you've got to make it a 1 hour interview as opposed to a 24-hour stint sort of thing.
Well, that's right. That's right. Martin Luther King. That's Martin Luther King saying. But I think that what's really important to understand about starting a business, especially when I do talks at high schools and things like that, is that it should be treated as a fast-track learning journey. Because there's real pressure and you've got to make decisions quickly and whatever. If you're reading ebooks or whatever to try and learn this stuff, it's in your own leisurely time with no pressure whatsoever. You spent the $20, so you got the ebook, and you might not feel like it today, so you just read it tomorrow or whatever. Whereas when you've started something and there's pressure about paying people and all of these things and delivering on expectations so that you don't lose your personal reputation and so on, that kind of pressure makes you learn things very, very fast, clearly. And I think that's the way, particularly if you're young and you decide to start something, that it should be treated as a accelerated learning journey rather than anything. Because I know some of my team have done an MBA, for example, and a lot of the templates that they teach aren't whatsoever applicable to what we do, because you can't solve every problem in the world with a fucking template. And there's guys I know that have done MBAs and done courses and all sorts of stuff that said, during their honeymoon period of working for us, for LT2, they've learned more than they did in that whole program. And it's because there's no time to dick around. If we got to do this, we got to do this. If we got to pay this person, we got to find the money to pay this person. It's just what it is. And so you can't. What's the word when you put things off?
Procrastinate.
Yeah, I see. I don't even. It's not even in my dictionary. But procrastinate. You can't do that shit. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Too fucking bad. That's how we got to operate. Or we're cooked, and you can't get paid. And these things, it teaches you. Yeah. I think everyone should do it just to learn what it's like. And I think there are variances, and people will learn this, there are variances of pressure. So on the lower end of the spectrum, there's working for someone else, and then there's working for someone else with shares, and then there's working for yourself, but it's just like a you thing, like a service thing. You're just getting paid to run podcasts. And then there's a working for yourself, paying others, whatever. And then there's a working for yourself, paying others, trying to change the world. That's 5 different areas of the spectrum. And from left to right, the amount of pressure is universes apart.
Oh, yeah.
Like fucking universes, honestly. And it's why, for example, I'm basically not friends with anyone I went to school with, because they all did normal things, like work for others, and they have no idea what it's like, the dedication, the sacrifice you got to do to attempt to build the world's best something. And so, in my estimation, why wouldn't you try something just to see? It doesn't matter if it's not for you. It's fucking clearly not for many people. But why wouldn't you just see so that you could understand with some perspective? I don't know.
I guess people just don't like to throw themselves in the deep end. That's why, that's why the human race has a need for mediocrity.
I don't know. I think
if
my mum said it's good that there's peons, because if everyone was a fucking legend, it'd be really hard to stand out.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. Even now with the globalization of the internet, it's even harder to be a legend these days than it did back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Can anyone join Little Tokyo 2 at any... I shouldn't say can anyone, but anyone at any stage of the... to join Little Tokyo 2? And if so, how can they find you and those sorts of things?
That's why we have those brackets. I mean, if you're beyond 3 million revenue, you don't need us anyway, and you're probably not listening. But anywhere from 3 million a year revenue below, and I mean, I say that sort of flexibly, we have a part of the community for you. That's why we have a free Facebook group you can join. You don't have to have a business. You just might want to be there to interact and learn things and get inspiration. It's super, super active.
Yeah.
All the way down to, the scale, the 3 million revenue scale plans that we've got, where we deliver this huge amount of advisory work, accountability, strategy sessions. You have the big offices, all these kinds of things. So, I mean, it kind of works for everyone. It's just like I said, if you agree with our core principles, like globally relevant, everyone uses a broom, etc., we have a list of them up there, then yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what country you're from or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
In essence, we have plans, which are these growth plans, and we help you execute what it is you want to execute, not what we want to execute. So it's all about, we focus completely internally. Our true metric for the company is, for LT2 is, how do we help companies that start with us at any stage get to their target, the next bracket, whatever that might be. That's our true metric, because if we help you do that, you'll take more plans. If we help you do that, you'll talk about us better. If we help you do that, you might join our venture part of the business sooner or later, and then everyone wins.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, absolutely. How do people get firstly on the Facebook group, and if they're beyond that stage and they're looking to sort of join up or get more contact, how can they get a hold of you?
Just generally you can go to littletokyo2.com, of course, and it's a application as such. Everyone will get called, but you'll be asked a set amount of questions. It's not a scary thing. It's just to make sure that we're aligned and that we can meet your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So people that want to come here just for offices, it doesn't work out because they end up paying a lot for an office in which they don't get the support because they don't want it. And then secondly, the Facebook group is called Little Tokyo 2 Extended Network. It's a closed group. You just apply. I think there's 2 questions. It's really easy. But we pretty much accept everyone unless you're on my blacklist, and there's not many people on there. And the people who are know who they are.
And they know why they
are. So other than that, yeah, why wouldn't you? It's free. Every day, like our team writes things every 3 hours basically, but every day at 6 a.m. I put a live, detailed, almost essay-like insight of something about small companies and founders between ideation to Series A.
Yeah.
It's literally bleeding edge now, insightful as of today, practical.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? This shit's free.
And it's awesome. I think I got on last week, and it's I haven't read back to the start, not anywhere close, but
you should.
I will. And
I can't be bothered repeating it.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely awesome, and I haven't been a part of Little Tokyo 2 yet. I say yet because who knows where this entrepreneurial journey is going to take me, but everything I've heard from here has been awesome. Everything I've heard from here, it's basically, if you're an entrepreneur in Brisbane and you're looking for somewhere to go, I mean, this is the place for you, assuming that, all the principles are aligned. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for starting such an awesome place as well. Thoroughly appreciate it. Thanks, mate. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and jump over to lessonsfromsuccess.com.au and make sure you jump on that email list so I can notify you as soon as any more shows come out. I'm your host, Bryn Turner, and thank you so much for joining us.